Hello everyone, I'm Tim from Tim Does Level Design and welcome to lesson 4 of my beginner course in video game level design. In the previous lesson, I showed you an example setup with 3 golem enemies that's difficult to overcome without double jump, but rather easy with double jump unlocked, and asked you to create your own setup that's easier to complete with a particular ability unlocked. For reference, here's another little setup, where skeletons and bats in synergy make it a bit complicated to traverse this section. If the player has archery unlocked, they can take out a few enemies and remove the overlap of skeletons and bats, making it a lot easier to cross. Now that you've had some time to play around with the 3 C's and enemies in our game project, we can have a look at another important element we use in level design ingredients. In Ubisoft, we would call any object in our levels that the player can directly or indirectly interact with a level design ingredient. In a game like Assassin's Creed Mirage, elements like these hooks, poles, and zipline cables are all elements that facilitate a specific interaction by the player. When using Assassin's Focus here, you see that elements like lootable chests and haystacks to land into are also marked as interactable. And groups of civilians to blend into, and specific foliage that the player can remain undetected in can also count as level design ingredients. Level design ingredient is a Ubisoft specific term, and I don't think there's a truly universally agreed upon name for these, though in other studios and projects you'll likely hear different names for them, like interactive props, level elements, entities, or gameplay objects. For our project, I've also created a couple of level design ingredient prototypes for you to play around with. Let's open up our project and navigate to our maps folder first to, like we did before, copy the map template and create a new gym level, which we can call, for example, map_gym_LDI. As we're starting to gather more maps of the same type, let's organize things and create a new folder called gyms that we can drag our 3 gym levels into. Opening our new gym level, let's delete the map transition box and add some descriptive text to our dev panel. Let's also create some space to test out our LDIs. And then, in our content folder, navigate to the folder called LDIs. From here, we can drag in our different level design ingredients. Let's start with the arrow rack. With it selected in our viewport, we can see in the details panel that it doesn't really require any setup, but does allow us to customize the interact and interacted text if we wish to do so. Let's add a couple of bats for the sake of target practice and try it out in our gym. We also have a breakable wall available. We can rotate this LDI 180 degrees when we need to. The player can only destroy this with a sword slash from the backside, allowing us to restrict some passages to a one-way entry only. There's also an ice wall that, even with wall slide unlocked, the player cannot slide down and wall jump off of. Jump pads can be placed and rotated, allowing the player to reach greater heights. And spikes can be rotated and placed in all kinds of places to make traversal more challenging and dangerous for the player. Trapdoors collapse after a few seconds, forcing the player to move on quickly and requiring them to time their movement well. Placing our 1 gem door from the details panel, we can select the component LD gem switch location to freely move the gem switch around in our level. When striking the gem switch, the door opens. And I'm sorry, but I only realized just now that I made a little mistake in how I set up the logic for the doors opening, leading to the doors not opening properly when the LDI is rotated 180 degrees. So sadly, you'll be restricted to using the door LDIs in their default rotation only for now. The 3 gem door has 3 gem switch locations available as components to be moved around. All 3 need to be hit by the player for the door to open. The door with the green gems has 2 gem switches to be moved around in the same way, though these 2 gems are on a timer, so make sure it's possible for the player to reach those 2 gems and the door in a timely fashion. For our moving platforms, I've added a location 1 and location 2 component that you can move, which represents the start and end point of the platform movement. I've also exposed a duration variable, which is the total time it takes for the platform to go from one location to the other. And you can toggle spikes on and off on either side of the platform to make the platform function as an obstacle. And finally, we also have 3 kinds of pickup available. The ability pickup can be set from the drop down in the details panel to any of our player abilities, which will automatically update the associated text. The player can interact with the pickup by pressing up when standing on it to unlock that ability. This is an abstract representation of learning a new ability in our game, whether it's a reward from a boss fight or an NPC teaching you a new ability. The coin pickup simply disappears when the player touches it. We can use the coin pickup to represent any type of optional loot or collectible in our levels. The health pickup cannot be interacted with when the player has full health, but when damaged, touching it will pick it up, granting the player up to 3 hit points. This should cover all the functionality and setup of the level design ingredients we have available in our project. I've also created a level design ingredients MIRO page with a handy overview of the LDIs, as well as the other logic blueprints we have in our project. I'll again add a link to it in the description down below. In a bigger development team, these level design ingredients could be provided to you by technical game designers or technical level designers, where in a smaller team, you as a level designer could be expected to create those and provide the documentation. But even in bigger teams, you may well be asked to create your own prototypes, or even create your own shippable versions of level design ingredients. So I do recommend that you sooner or later learn at least basic scripting or programming for your engine of choice. I don't think I'll cover it in this beginner's course, but there's plenty of free documentation and tutorials out there to help you get started with. For example, setting up your own blueprints in Unreal Engine. Now you have all the knowledge you need to set up an LDI gym for yourself, to play around and get familiar with how everything works. Though level design ingredients don't just work in isolation. It starts getting really interesting when we start combining LDIs with each other and with our enemies to create specific challenges and synergies. For example, 2 moving platforms together can create a nice simple platforming challenge. And when we add some spikes at the bottom, it increases the danger and risk. And if we combine it with, for example, a golem enemy, it now really requires the player to get their timing just right. So for this episode's homework, I'd like you to come up with 5 different combinations between LDIs and or enemies that provide a new challenge when combined, and that you could possibly reuse in some way in the levels you'll be designing in the upcoming lessons. Please do like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell below to get notified when the next video goes live. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.